Just because a doctor prescribes you something does not mean it's safe. Do your research, be smart.
Non-apologetic news, not what you're used to. Non-apologetic news, telling you the truth. Non-apologetic news, saying what they're scared to. Non-apologetic news, non-apologetic news.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Non-Apologetic News. This week we talk about the opioid crisis. We talk about a YouTube prankster who dresses as Spider-Man. We talk about people escaping from jail and the shenanigans they get into. All this and more on this week's episode of Non-Apologetic News. That was about perfect. Now, typically we like to laugh, joke, have a fun time with the news, but this one's just a smidget serious, okay? CDC is moving to relax opioid laws. Now, this is an awful thing, and unless you've been living under a rock for the past 5 years, you know about, you probably know the Purdue family and the whole Oxycontin type thing. Anybody who doesn't know, I'll give you a 30-second rundown. In the early 90s, Purdue Pharma lost their exclusivity rights to a drug called MS-Cotton, which was essentially a form of oxycodone. So they created Oxycontin, which is just a time-release oxycodone, and they were able to pay off the FDA. The FDA is it's like the police for drugs, what you can and can't say. So they were able to pay off the FDA and make it to where they were actually able to tell doctors that less than 1% of people would get addicted because it's time released, and that if your patient comes back in and he's showing signs of addiction, he's not really addicted. He's pseudo-addiction. You need to double his dose. And then when he comes back next month, if he's still in pain, if you had given him 30 milligrams a day, you need to give him 60 now. And it was all this crazy stuff. Eventually, what's funny, that FDA agent they paid off, he went to work for Purdue Pharma 2 years after that. Crazy stuff. Anyways, so it was 2018 or so. The CDC put a bunch of recommendations and a lot of laws in place. Those include that you can't give opioids for more than 3 days for acute pain. Now, acute pain just is like my wrist hurts or my ankle hurts or something, which you shouldn't get opiates for at all. But, so that was limited to 3 days. It was also suggested that you could not prescribe more than the equivalent to 90 milligrams of morphine, which in the case of oxycodone is about 60 milligrams. That's per day. A doctor should not, unless it's extreme situation, prescribe more than that. Also, that your typical doctor could not prescribe long-term opiates. They did it to where you had to be a pain management doctor so they could keep track. So, all they got to keep track of is 2 in every county instead of every single doctor in the world, right? So they put all these limitations on them, including you have to take UAs if you want to be on the opioids for chronic pain. That way they know you're not using any other drugs, using the right amount. This is where it gets crazy. The CDC wants to step in and undo all of this. They're saying that pain management patients aren't able to get their drugs. As someone who has severe spinal trauma, I can tell you that people who need this pain medicine are able to get it, right? It doesn't need to be more available. This is something that I know a lot about. I've read every book on this thing. It's always fascinated me how this drug has been able to skirt, because we have to remember this has killed over 1 million people. And if they allow this to be undone, you're going to be able to go in the doctor and be like, when I wake up, my wrist hurts for 30 minutes. Opioids. You get oxy. You get oxy. You get oxy. And all joking aside, what's going to happen is millions of people are going to die if this happens. The streets are going to be flooded with oxy, right? And you got to remember, we're still dealing with people putting fentanyl in oxy pills. So people are going to think it's more okay because there's going to be more real oxy pills, but the same amount of people are still going to die from that. And you have to remember how many people die from this drug who take it as prescribed. And if you're taking Percocet, which has Tylenol, most people don't know, you'll get Tylenol toxicity. There's a toxicity rate of Tylenol, and you're going to reach that level that the Tylenol kills you before the oxy does. It's like a mean drug. And if we allow all these regulations to disappear, well, you don't need to go to pain management. You don't need to take a UA to see if you're also using heroin, that we can give you more than 60 milligrams a day and it's not going to issue any red flags. And see, I'm not saying that this drug should be done away with. I actually think this is a miracle drug for patients with chronic pain who really need it when it's used in small doses and monitored by a pain management doctor. This should not be available widely to the entire public. I don't know if they're going to allow a vote on this or if it's just dead. dead. And they just, just give a death sentence to 100,000 more people. But if this does come to a vote, I advise you to get involved. And the last thing I'll really say about this is that just because a doctor prescribes you something does not mean it's safe. Do your research. Be smart.
YouTube prankster Eric Decker, who goes by airrack.
Airrack?
Yeah. On YouTube, has claimed to be the same man who was captured on a local news broadcast in January climbing the wall of a multi-story building dressed as Spider-Man.
Drop down. Snap. Ah!
What the fuck was that? LA News covered a story about an unknown man ascending a building in downtown LA on January 20th. He uploaded a video in which he tried to falsely convince journalists that he was the individual behind the numerous reported sightings of a man on a jetpack in LA.
We covered that.
Yeah. He tried to take credit for it, but they're like...
He was also... The guy on the jetpack was wanted for being the man on the jetpack.
Right. In his latest video, Decker said he made it to the final round of casting for the 2021 movie Spider-Man No Way Home, but was brutally rejected and decided to film a stunt to prove to Marvel that he was the only option for the next Spider-Man.
So basically what we have here is another YouTube asshole desperate for views.
Yeah.
It is weird. I mean, we're doing the same thing in a sense. I mean, we found our own lane, and for anyone who doesn't know, I have a complete history of doing this kind of stuff. If you look into me, dozen CDs on iTunes. Woo! But these people nowadays, especially, younger kids, like, this is the holy grail for them. Like, being able to be successful on YouTube and being able to say, I got 50,000 followers. I got 100,000 subscribers. I shouldn't have to ask you this. Is he our newest Spider-Man on the big screen?
No, he is not.
He is not. That is all I need to know about this young man, unless you think I need to know something.
No, that's about it.
This one's actually unique. So we go to Dallas, and in Dallas, there is a prisoner, right? He's in jail. He is locked up behind bars. He cannot leave because he's in jail, right? Wrong.
The way it's supposed to go.
They keep the back door unlocked, apparently, at this jail. So this prisoner was caught sneaking home-cooked food back into prison, right?
Leaving prison, got out, went and got some food, and brought it back.
Oh, I got
to get back before I get in trouble.
Yeah, they're going to do a bed count, and he has curfew. So this is Jefferson County. Now, Jefferson County say they were acting on a tip when they set up a surveillance operation on private property near the prison. You know what? Screw the story. I know this story. There's a big farm behind the prison, right? And apparently for a while, the sheriff says since day one, they've had a problem with people sneaking out to that field. Okay, that's the alarming part, number one of this. So they saw someone drop off a bag. So they were watching. About 2 hours later, sure enough, a guy in his bright orange jumpsuit shimmies across the field, grabs the bag. The bag contains tobacco, herb, home-cooked food, snacky cakes, like everything, whiskey, brandy, like everything you could possibly want, right?
Some pico de gallo.
And they arrest him on his way back in. Now, let's look at the haul here. This looks like, even on the outside, this looks like a good meal.
Yeah.
I mean, you got fried chicken, you got sausages, you got mixed nuts, you got Pringles, you got whatever this bread type stuff is. And it's not, I don't think it's just about feeding himself and making himself eat better. I think it's that, you can trade this and make life a lot easier on the inside. As I always say, a big old sausage can make life in prison a lot easier. But the fact that the sheriffs have to say that since day one of this prison years ago, that this was an issue is downright alarming. Don't get me wrong. I think it's hilarious. But you gotta go to the sheriff, look him right in his eyes and be like,
what's this brother smoking over here?
Because how hard would it be to stop someone getting out the rear of the prison, right?
I don't know, maybe lock the fucking door.
Lock the door, shut the window. We have really dumb sheriffs. So my only advice to anyone listening to this story that might be in the Dallas area is if you're going to go to the pen, if you're about to be sentenced, request to go to Jefferson County, home of the dumbest sheriffs in our great nation. What do you got for us?
All right, a dad is facing hard prison time after trying to shut down his home internet. In one town of France, a father got fed up with the amount of screen time his kids were indulging in and decided to do something about it. He tried to get them offline by shutting down the internet, but he ended up shutting it down for the whole town. Yeah. Apparently used a jammer.
Jammer.
The dad used a multi-wave band jammer to temporarily cut off the internet connection in his home in order to get his kids offline. However, the device is illegal in France because it interferes with telecommunication signals.
And airplane, like their communication, yeah.
Once nearly 2 municipalities were shut down. France's National Frequency Agency began an investigation that led them to the unnamed father. When questioned, the man revealed that he was just trying to get his kids offline, come have dinner. Shit. Okay. What he didn't know is that the jamming device would be powered enough to cut the connectivity of 2 municipalities. Was that 2 cities?
2 cities, yeah.
The authorities got involved when the neighbors started complaining. He now faces up to 6 months in jail and a fine of 30,000 euros, which is $34,000.
No, I wish I could talk to this guy because, shut the fucking router off.
Right, yeah,
how
just go
difficult is
unplug
this? Change the Wi-Fi password. Don't pay for the internet. There are dozens of opportunities.
Yeah, unhook the modem and fucking lock it up.
Where did he get the fucking jammer?
Offline.
Yeah. So he had to, all right, these kids, I got to get them off the internet. Let's go on eBay. And then he waits for it to get delivered to him, probably since they're illegal in France, from out of the country. So he's waiting 4 to 6 weeks, and the whole time he's like, you motherfuckers, just wait.
You're going to get it.
You just wait. And then he shuts down everything.
Yeah. That's
actually a good story. It would be funny, though, if you wanted to, shut off your neighbor's internet or something, So every time they're okay, let's say you have that neighbor who's always listening to really loud music. Chances are they're streaming.
Right.
You could get one of these jammers and just shut it down.
Not today, Tim.
You're not watching Netflix. Oh, man.
What a fucking bozo.
All right. Does that wrap up this story?
Yeah.
That is fucking fantastic. As always, we want to thank you guys for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Like, subscribe, all of that stuff. We will be right back here next Wednesday with another brand new episode of Non-Apologetic News. As always, I am Travisty. Next to me is Body Bag. And whatever you do, do not watch the news.
Non-apologetic news. Non-apologetic news.